Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Project Ready Podcast. We've been cranking out a whole bunch of different topics over the last several months. Previous podcasts, navigating the challenges of AEC project owners and managing the chaos of document control. Upcoming webcasts around the challenges of project managers in the AEC, as well as challenges of IT professionals within the industry. Topic of today is the concept of little things and big results, right? So, little things, big results. So, what really drives this is I've been in professional services my entire life and running a services practice over the years, one of our other businesses. It was amazing the little things that just suck the life out of the room and would cost you nothing but money, right? So there are all these little things that impact an end user's day. And so, 10 minutes an hour times 8 times 100 employees, this becomes incredibly impactful to your ability to drive a profit, ROI, right? Simple things like how would you make sure an email is being responded to in the project accountably, right? So this is one of the things that we do. There are a lot of statistics out there, McKinsey, a lot of folks refer to the productivity out there. The industry is blowing like a trillion and a half dollars a year on productivity. Now, some of that probably also includes the productivity out in the field. I'm not going to say otherwise, but it's usually impactful. So for one, some of the little things that you've seen big results around.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the biggest ones, as you said, is the email. I think something even as simple as getting to the correct project site is one of
Yeah,
the
it's a big
biggest
deal.
issue we've seen. A lot of our customers just getting to project sites in different systems in SharePoint and ACC, Procore, BIM, all of these. It's one central repository, and there's no easy way to even get to your project. And thinking about end users working in their day to day, working through so many different systems and different projects, it's just very painful to get to where you need to, looking for the correct library, the correct location in SharePoint. It seems like a very simple little thing, but it adds up when you're
But
trying
it
to
it
get
kills you.
things done. Yep.
One of our major sponsors has said, so we have a chain link in our application that brings you to the exact location where content is, be it in Procore or Autodesk or BIM or PlanGrid or Box or of course SharePoint and Teams and the group mailbox. And so when you think about it, you will be using SharePoint, whether or not it's a dedicated site, which is what we do, but you can do that because we automate it, makes it very scalable. Um, but it's a bear. You have to log into there's no way you're not using SharePoint and Teams at some point on a project and ACC and somebody else's Procore. It's just the inevitability. So logging into each system, traversing it and finding where you're going, having 1,000 favorites that you have to constantly update in the one browser and you switch to a different browser, it just doesn't scale. And so, what should take a click or two sometimes can take as much as 2 and 3 minutes per system several times a day. And again, over a lot of folks using it.
Hmm.
So that's one thing that we solve for, and I think a thing that is just a time suck. What else would you throw out there?
Yeah, and in addition to just getting to the systems, we also have a way to basically tag a lot of our different functionalities with metadata. And I think that makes it that much easier, even within the projects, to get to where we need to get to. We can tag, for an example, a project with a location, a division, department, or different things. We can tag RFIs with certain properties,
For
which just
search,
makes it easier, yep,
right?
to kind of search, filter, report against all of the content. And effective metadata tagging just makes the data, basically we have this whole data warehouse in the back end and there's a lot of data, but enforcing the metadata makes it that much more effective, that okay, it's all properly tagged and filed, and that makes it really easy for end users to look for that data.
Yeah, it makes for a very powerful search. Our search is based upon transactions. So, RFIs with content in system X, Y, or Z, right? And to your point, the more
Hmm.
descriptors that you have, the more powerful and meaningful and rapid that search can be. And then you mentioned the data warehouse. This is the other thing is, you need to not only know where your stuff is, you need to know how the project is performing. And this
Mm.
is where in Q1 we're going to be rolling out AI tools against this because we capture every transaction that runs through us. It's really quite profound. And so there's the search, traditional search, our unique search, but also I would argue searching through data. It relates to our other podcasts and garbage in, garbage out. You want to get meaningful data out of there through reporting, not having adequate metadata, not having a taxonomy that scales and glues everything together really makes that a moot point.
Mhm. Yep, agreed.
And so another thing in terms of the finding of stuff, one of my favorite things to yeah, I say rail on against, but or about is Teams. So Teams is fantastic. I use Teams all day, et cetera, and so forth. Great. But there are too many teams typically within an enterprise. I would argue you may or may not want a dedicated channel per project. It really depends on the size and the duration and the complexity. But let's say you even keep it to a moderate throttle. You have 100 projects a year and 1,000 projects. You can see very quickly where it's become difficult to find that exact team. And so this goes back to our notion of where's my stuff, right? It's in the chain link. Go right to that team's channel. Gets rid of the noise, gets rid of inaccuracy. Another thing that takes a lot of time is, again, if you're going to use a system like ours with the chain link, is the constant logging in and logging out. And so, why don't you explain how we handle that kind of authentication?
Yeah, we basically have, in terms of APIs, there are the OAuth APIs that each of these systems have with Microsoft Autodesk Procore. So the first time the user comes into Project Ready, they would be prompted to just log into each of these systems, and it persists that login. So if unless they are inactive for 60 to 90 days, it's different for each systems, but otherwise every day they come in, they're just logged into all of these systems. So the chain link that we keep mentioning, it's just going to stay consistent where across projects, across systems, the one time end users would log in, they'll just be able to easily browse to all of these different systems without having to re-log in again and again. It's going to maintain that authentication in the back end.
Because we put everything in the context of the project. Your CDE is not your project, right? It's your
Hmm.
project with
Yep.
all that different content and all those different authentication points. And throwing out more fun factoids. I've seen this stat from Autodesk and FMI. I've seen it from other places as well. A third of your workforce, certainly, one thing, it's professional services at the end of the day, guys. And anybody in that professional services context, people who aren't walking around the field, which is most of certainly an A and an E firm, um, spending a third of your week, 14 hours a week, just looking for stuff, dealing with the fact that the information is stale, out of date, causes rework. This is, boy, those little things add up really large across your organization. And talking about the ability to log into all those systems, this brings us to the way we handle document control and connect and attach, which is our feature that allows you to send multiple attachments out from different systems. Once we connect all that stuff, once you have an authoritative way to glue it, the efficiency just goes bizarrely up, right? In a great way. And we have a number of ROI calculators on the website to speak to this. But you think about it, if you got to send out an attachment, even one document from, I don't care about the system, right? Name the CDE, SharePoint, ACC. Got two documents, you're downloading them into a zip file, unpacking them. Now you have attachments in different systems. We have a little video. It's time lapse. It's real. 7.5 minutes by hand if you're lucky versus a minute and a half if you have these kind of connections. So if you have, let's go to that stat, you have 10 people sending out 10 emails a day with attachments, very quickly that adds up as well. Let's talk a little bit more about email. And email, one of the things that I'm always on about is what do you do with stuff that's not an RFI, that's not a submittal, but is essential content to the project? So there are a few things we do. Why don't you pick up from there, Shayla?
Sure, yeah. In terms of emails, I think the biggest one is the ability to register content. So basically bringing in email attachments in context of a project. So there is always a case where clients, vendors, even team members, they just send you project documents through email as attachments, and it's a lot of manual overhead to you would download them on your local machine, and then you would have to go find the correct place where they belong and then upload them there. Versus with Project Ready, it's an add-in in your Outlook, and right from there you can select the attachments, the email, and then you can select where you want to send those attachments to. So right from the email, it reduces the whole downloading and re-uploading of the files. You can just select your project, select where we want to send them to. We can send them to any of our systems,
Well, the
SharePoint, and
CDEs. Yeah, right.
yeah, any of the CDEs, and down to picking the subfolder or the library, and then just basically sending the content there, making
Yeah.
it that much more faster and regulated.
Yeah, it's sort of the other end of what connected attach is, which is sending them out from any system quickly
Hmm.
and conveniently. This is capturing them from any
Bringing
one of
it
those.
in.
Right,
Yep.
exactly.
Yep, correct. Yeah, both of those equally important, and both of them generally take up a lot of time. So definitely, I think both directions, people are always going to be using emails and attachments for that easy access to content. This just brings a process on top of it, making it more manageable, and it also keeps a record of everything that has been brought in and sent out. So in the
Yeah, all
longer run,
auditable, right?
yep.
And the other one, which was really a consequence of the years I spent in services, managing a services firm, was emails, right? Oh, did you answer the email? Did you track the time against the email that you answered? Did anybody know that this email was answered one way or the other? And so the ability to create a task out of an email quickly, easily, associated project, capture time against it if you so choose. This is another one that, my God, the amount of time, oh, I forwarded it. Let me look through the inbox. Can you
Hmm.
resend it so it's the top of my inbox? I'll answer it today. 2 days later goes by. Damn, never did answer that, right? So think about just the human waste of time, just trying to track down something which you really just need to go, oh, this email, these attachments, please respond, and have a way
Hmm.
to track that. I'll throw more fun factoids at you that our marketing team provided. Um, Non-standardized data input. 41% of contractors agree this is a major, major problem. And it's inaccurate, it's unusable data. And it's these edge cases, it's these little things that keep slipping outside the purview of more formal workflows like RFIs and submittals. There's a lot more to the management of data and content than that, right? And those are some of the things that we solve for. All right, let's talk about another little thing, which I don't think is so little, frankly. We do it very quickly, is to set up and secure content in projects, right? So you think about it. Normally, you go, okay, we're at the RFP stage. I got to have some place to stick the request for proposal. I'll put that somewhere in SharePoint. And so, oh, I need a SharePoint site. Now, if it's a generic catch all for the entire place, I honestly think that's not a good approach because it is just the dumpster that you have to go diving into all the time to find your information. So, it really should be that one to one, be it that ACC, Procore, filling out a help desk ticket, having IT do this. In the case of M365, adding and removing users for security, which you can't do easily, by the way, you end up with a taxonomy that's really not the best fit for the project. It's just the best fit for IT governance. And that should not get in the way of what's best for the project. The project is everything. All the different systems, all the different players, it's context of the project. So even getting people in that system. So Shelly, once you describe some of the challenges around, let's say it's M365 and the like, how do you get people who are external to your company into the system easily? How do people do it normally?
Right. Normally, there's basically involvement of IT because there's no easy way to add somebody who's external to your company. It requires a whole Azure AD registration and setup, and there's no out of box way to basically just invite someone who's
Right.
outside of your organization.
Don't you have to like send them an email and then they respond and somebody IT just to add
Hmm.
them even in?
Yes, yes, correct. So yeah, it's a whole process of if you want to add somebody. So it's not that simple. But yeah, Microsoft has APIs for that. So because of that, we could use the APIs, and we have that easy to use user interface where you would just type in the user's email, a name, you can put in a custom message. But in the back end, it still does all those manual steps, but we automated it using our APIs. It will invite the end user, and then the Microsoft process takes over where they would register. Once they register, the user who invites them is notified. It just makes it that much more efficient where there's no involvement of multiple parties, and they can just send an invitation and add the person to a project and start working with them.
And it's the time to delivery. You finally get the green light or you want to get that bid out quickly. You really don't want to wait 2 days for it to go through the queue, right? That little thing really drags out the time to delivery as well. And then, of course, there's the how do we sync content back and forth, which is a big thing of ours. We enable the synchronization of content across a number of systems. Again, the big thing from our program management feature release is the ability to synchronize content in one person's ACC and a vendor's ACC to the owner's ACC with Procore and BIM 360 and everything else in between. And so the ability to synchronize that content, I mean, let's face it, you get the project closeout, you're just trying to get a receipt of another vendor's documents that are related to the project that you need to work with. The notion that people are going to find that system, log in, traverse, find the project, then select the files, download the zip file, go to lunch, weekend hits, come back Monday, and it's all out of whack, right? Nothing is even relevant at that point. So, Shaylee, why don't you pick up from there on the benefit of being able to automatically ship this content back and forth?
Yeah, definitely. With Sync, it's basically a one time setup on a project level. It can be set on the level of folders. So, as Joe mentioned, if there's a particular folder in one CDE that needs to sync for the same project in another CDE, like from ACC to Procore, Procore to SharePoint, any of these combinations, once it is set up, it just automatically syncs. So, we have customers who would set up a particular folder because we don't want everything to be synced all the time can have a folder that is published or approved, kind of a folder in one location. So anytime files are dropped there, they just automatically sync to the destination, and then there's no miscommunication or any data that's been old because it's just always real time syncing.
Right. And for those of you who are afraid of going, well, I don't necessarily want it to go out automatically. One of our clients, they have all their working copy. Great. When they're ready to close out or hand off, they move or copy that content to a different folder, in this case, Procore, which then the sync hits on. So there's a myriad of ways to even control that. But the big thing is you're not hand tooling it, right? Which is just, it's just not a good use of time, folks. Like many of the things that we're forced to deal with on a day to day basis. All right. I think that's, enough of us going on about the little things, but the little things, it's going to sound self-deprecating, but we focus a lot on the little things. We have a lot of focus on the big things, but the little things that come together as a consequence of addressing the big things is something that we think we really bring a lot of value to the marketplace on. If you guys get a chance, it will be on the page where we announce this and the whole bit, but project-ready.com/home/ROI, and you will find lots of calculators. Put in your data. Feel free to challenge us. I'm happy to defend it. We really think we bring an awful lot to the party. So, as always, thank you for coming out. Shaylee, thank you for being on the show with us every time. And for further information, do contact us, info at project-ready.com. And hope this was somewhat informative to you today. Catch you next time.